This is Get Geared Up with Greg Rau. Let's talk about our Canopy sizing chart. So the UPT sizing chart is a living document. It's constantly changing because construction of parachutes is constantly changing, which affects the volume. If you have a wing that is not on the sizing chart, you will need to contact the manufacturer of that wing and ask them how it compares to a PD product of similar size and construction. And then that way we can get the volume, and then we can build you a rig according to that. All the things that I have to explain are behind me. That's why I look like this. So let's get into it. So we have a couple options on the chart. For fitment. So let's start at standard fitting. Standard fittings is our basic overall happy place. There's a little bit of extra room in it. So if I'm in a dry environment, I've got a little bit of extra room because in a dry environment, the wing tends to pack larger. Then we switch to the full fitting. Let's say I'm in a humid environment, then that full fitting is going to give me less room, but it's still doable. And in a humid environment, it's easier because the wing has got a little bit of moisture and it's easier to pack up. Apparently, we're packing in this environment. There are several methods to measuring a parachute. The two basics are if I'm measuring from bottom skin and then measuring from the top skin or inflated. So if I take the exact same parachute and I measure the bottom skin and it's 20.3 feet from side to side and 10.3 foot cord, that equals about a 210 square foot parachute. If I take the exact same parachute and I measure it across the top skin from side to side from the same point, that line becomes longer. So now from side to side, I've got 21 feet. And the cord now becomes 11 feet, which equals a 230 square foot parachute, but it's the same parachute. So depending on the method that that company uses to measure it, you can have two different size wings fitting in the same rig. Not every ZP is created equal. If I have Joe's Fabric Manufacturing Company and they make ZP, and then I have Ryan's Manufacturing Company and they make ZP, just because they're both ZP doesn't mean they have the same properties because they're two different materials manufactured by two different companies. And then from there, when we get to our sail materials and our like FT30 materials, that coating becomes thicker. So the volume changes because of the size of the coating and also the way it packs. The full sail material doesn't fold up as easily as the ZP material does. Then we have the types of wings. We have 9-cell versus 7-cell. If they're made out of the same type of material, I have found the 7 cells tend to pack slightly smaller. There's a noticeable difference in volume. Cross bracing adds more bulk and material to the wing. Nowadays, we have logos that are printed into the material itself. They do not affect the size of the wing at all. So if I have an applique logo, it's a completely separate piece of material that is sewn onto the wing. A small one is going to take up much less space than if I have the entire bottom skin. So let's add some more confusion to this. I have several different types of line.
I have Spectra or Microline, I have HMA, I have Vectran, I have different sizes of all that. I've got Dacron, I have different sizes Dacron.
So a larger Dacron line can increase the volume of a wing almost an entire size. How skilled are you at packing? If you've been doing this for 30 years and this has been your whole job, you tend to pack pretty well. A person with a higher skill set for packing can put a wing more neatly into a bag than a person that has very little experience and has just started skydiving. So those two things can make a big difference to whether your wing fits or not. From time to time, I have somebody say to me, this parachute does not fit in this rig at all. I come along and I pack it and I'm like, it fits in here fine. So you have to remember that also. The larger the wing gets when it's packed in low bulk material, the smaller it packs. And the smaller the wing gets, the larger it packs. And what I mean by that is the larger wing, the overall part of the wing that gives it its lower volume is the material. So less of it is lines and tape, and more of it is that low bulk material. So if I have a standard fitting reserve, this doesn't necessarily mean that I can put a larger wing into the main container, because those two containers are two completely separate compartments. If I put a full fitting reserve into a rig and then I don't pack it properly, then at that point the reserve can encroach on the main container and reduce volume in the main container. So the way that it gets packed does play into it. With all that said, I've done the best I can to explain an ever-changing environment. So if you have any other questions about the fitting of your wing, you can reach us on our contact page at uptvector.com. Dash, you want to try some M&Ms? Which one do you want? Shit, you got blue.
This is Get Geared Up with Greg Rau.